Okay, for this morning we're gonna actually look at the types of cells, and we're gonna look at animal cells, and we're going to actually look at plant cells. So last week we would have completed looking at the characteristics of living things. So after looking at the characteristics of living things, then now we're gonna move into living things, for example, in terms of studying the components and the different parts of the human body, for example. And of course, we'll be looking at some aspect of plants. So in terms of the first component that we're going to look at in terms of the living organism, we're going to look at cells. So the topic, of course, it is types of cells. So on the screen now, basically have the objectives, and that simply means that at the end of this lesson you should be able to accomplish some things. Right, so cell. Now what is a cell? Now I'm gonna compare a single cell inside the human body versus a single component in a building. For example, the building block. In order for the building to move from ground level to the roof level, then of course you will realize that the persons who are making the house normally use block. Basically they put the block above each other until it reach that specific height that they want the building to reach. In terms of the human body, basically the same thing. Now all human beings started out as being one cell. So at first, in terms of our creation, we were just one single cell, but as time goes by, that single cell just keep on multiplying by two. Hence you being that size that you are now, simply because your cells just continuously multiplying and multiplying until you reach that particular height in terms of your development. So they normally said that a cell is the smallest or the basic unit within an organism. So the first pointer, all organisms are made up of simple basic units called cells. So the different body parts, they are made up of cells. So you have different cells inside the body. You have red blood cell, you have white blood cell, you have muscle cell, and the list goes on in terms of the different types of cells, which we're going to look at individually. The second pointer, most cells are too small to be seen by the naked eye. Now what they're saying is that as for most cells within the human body, you cannot see those cells with your naked eyes. You basically need a very powerful microscope, preferable the electronic one, and with this microscope then you will be able to zoom in on that extremely small piece of your body in terms of unit, which of course will be a cell, for example. So the third point on the slide is saying their structure only visible when viewed with a microscope. So let's say, for example, you're looking at a muscle cell. You cannot see a single muscle cell with the human eyes alone, or with the naked human eyes. You will have to use a very powerful electronic microscope that will allow you to identify that single cell, and that is simply because of the size of that cell, meaning that it is extremely small. Moving on to the next pointer, organisms. Once you hear the term organism, we are talking about living things, which of course include plant and animal. So organisms such as bacteria and amoeba are unicellular, consisting of a single cell. So students, once you hear the term or once you come across the term unicellular, it actually means one, mean that it is single cell. So organisms that are only one cell thick, we normally say that they are unicellular. So a bacterium, for example, because it is only one cell thick, it is impossible for you to see a bacterium with your naked eye. You will need the use of a microscope to allow you to see that extremely small organism. They are able to carry out all the functions needed to sustain life. So what they are saying, even though a bacterium is just one cell thick, even though it is that small, they are saying that that bacterium still can carry out all of the life processes for that bacterium in order for it to actually survive. Human being, for example, you'll realize that our body size really large. So in terms of the activities that take place inside of our body, respiration, nutrition, reproduction, all of those still take place inside that single cell organism, which would be a bacterium, for example. So all they're saying, don't pay too much attention to the size of the bacterium. Basically, because it is that small, does not mean that it not going to be able to carry out all of the life processes that, of course, will sustain life. The third pointer, so some of the examples of things that need to take place in order for living things to stay alive in terms of their existence. Respiration, and from your knowledge of respiration, as to what we would have looked at last week, is that respiration is normally the process by which living things body cells release energy. So respiration is very important in a bacterium, because in order for the bacterium to move from point A to point B, then they're gonna need some form of energy. So respiration is that process that will allow that bacterium to get some energy. Nutrition is basically also known as feeding, and that is you placing food in your mouth so you can actually eat it. So what they are saying is that nutrition also take place in bacteria. And reproduction. So these are just three of the characteristics of living things that we are saying will take place in a single cell organism, for example. So of course all 7 characteristics take place, or you can associate all of them with a bacterium, just that we don't need to go through them individually, because we would have looked at the characteristics of living things from last week. So let's continue. So most plants and animals are multicellular. So what they are saying is that most animals and most plants, they are multicellular. What that means is that in our body, you will find a lot more cells and a lot more different types of cells than a bacterium or than a virus, for example. So what you're seeing here, so these diagrams just showing you some examples of some of the cells that are in the human body, for example. So if I should ask you to give me examples of cells that are in your body, so that then you can tell me muscle cell, you can tell me liver cell, you can tell me nerve cell, blood cells, and the blood cells would include like red blood cell, white blood cell, and platelets. Those are the 3 types of blood cell. So going down, we have the nerve cell, we have the cardiac cell, we have the intestinal cell. So all of these are different types of cells that are located in the human body, for example. Looking at the second pointer, they have different types of cell organized into tissues and then organs. Now what they are saying is that in terms of the body size, in terms of the human body development. Um, you, in terms of the smallest, you will start out with cell. So cell will be the smallest unit. Now cells and cells normally join together to form what is known as tissue, and then different tissues join together to form an organ. You understand? Now once that organ is being formed, that organ can link up or work with another organ, and that you normally call an organ system. So different organs work together to form what is known as an organ system. And the different organ systems, for example, respiratory, the digestive system, the circulatory system, all those systems work together to form all of the functionality of a human being, for example. Alright, so moving down, the cells are specialized to carry out specific function. So what they are saying is that every different types of cell in the human body have their own function. Everybody hearing me? McFarlane, I think I saw your hand up a while ago. Repeat. Oh, you're talking about the band selection. What you want to choose something else? Oh, no, I'm not talking this subject. I'm just talking in general if you want to switch from another class. Is that what you're saying? Yes, yes, you can. It's just that you inform the teacher. Just inform your form teacher also. Yes, you can switch. You can change subject. Just ensure that you inform your form teacher. Right, so the last point there where it is saying that the cells are specialized to carry out specific function. Now all it is saying that in human being, for example, where we have different types of cell, for example, muscle cell. Your muscle cell is responsible mainly for contracting and relaxing so that you can move the body parts at the different joints. That is what the muscle cells does, meaning that they actually allow movement to take place at the body parts. As for blood cells, for example, your red blood cell, for example, is what is responsible for transporting oxygen around the human body in working with the circulatory system. So all of the different specialized cells inside your body, they have a specific or a particular function. So the reason why they call them specialized cells is that they have a special function, meaning that you're not going to have a type of cell in the human body that will do more than one thing. For example, looking at the slide again, you will see the nerve cell. So the nerve cell, the function of the nerve cell is to allow the different body parts to communicate. So the nerve cell is a part of your nervous system, and by now you should know that your nervous system is what basically control all of the movement, everything that takes place inside the human body in terms of coordinating. So the nerve cell is what take the information, or the nerve cell is what take message or instruction from your brain to the different body parts, telling them what to do. So all of the different cells inside the human body that are called specialized cells, they have their specific function, right? So, and that's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at specialized cells in the human body. And again, what the heading is talking about is that the human body have different types of cell in it. Now the fact that we have different type of cell mean that all of those different types of cell, they basically have their different functions. They have the individual function. So that is why they are called specialized cells. So we're going to look at all of the specialized cells in the human body. So the first pointer, While many cells make up simple body parts such as tissues, some complete more complex and specialized tasks. So what they are saying is that some of the cells inside the human body, for example, your red blood cell, they actually specialize to carry out a particular function or a particular task. And again, the main function for your red blood cell is to pick up and transport oxygen around the human body. So you will not find another cell inside the human body that pick up and transport oxygen. Only your red blood cell will basically do that, because that is the specialized, that is the special function, that is the main, or that is the single function of your red blood cells. So moving down to the second pointer, these specialized cells are specially designed, so that means that they specially make to perform the functions for which they are intended. So what they are saying, based on the structural arrangement, based on the design, based on the pattern, based on the shape of these cells, all of these features fit that particular function that that cell is supposed to carry out. Each of these cell types are formed and operate differently, right? So because they are called specialized cells, they basically operate differently. So you don't have the red blood cell working similarly to the white blood cell. They actually function or operate completely different, because they are doing two different specific functions. So ensuring that the cell can carry out the necessary body function that it is intended to complete. For example, red blood cell, white blood cells, and your nerve cell. Alright, so it would have just complete like for what I would say the introductory information overview of what are specialized cells. So now what we're going to do, we're going to be looking at those specialized cells individually. So the first special cell that we have is your nerve cells. So the first pointer, a nerve cell is like a receiver, transmitter, transmission line with the task of passing a signal. So all of that is talking about communication, meaning that the brain is communicating with the different body parts, sending out instruction as to how fast or how the different body parts must move. So it is your nerve cells that actually does that. Not your red blood cell, not your white blood cell. Those cells have different functions. So in terms of communication, communicating with the different body parts, your respiratory system communicating with your circulatory system, it is the nerve cell that will actually aid in that process in terms of linking the different body parts as for communication. Alright, moving down. So second pointer, conducts nerve impulses. That means that it carry message. That's what the second pointer is talking about there. So that's it in terms of the nerve cell. So again, the nerve cell, it is like a receiver, it is like a transmitter and a transmission. So basically, in a nutshell, you can say that the nerve cell is what allow the different body part to communicate, allow the different body part to know what is going on with each other. Right, so I'm moving on to a next type of specialized cell in the human body. This one is called epithelial cell, and the first pointer line the cavities and surfaces of structures in the body. So the epithelial cell, so the inside part of the different organs inside of your body, that's where this cell come into play, the epithelial cell. So very important, because if the lining or if the surfaces of these body structure in terms of organs, for example, if they are not develop properly, meaning that if they are not protected properly, then of course they will get some damage easily. So that's why they say that the epithelial cell, it is the lining of the surfaces of structures in the body. So we are talking about internal structure. Now the final point on the slide here, it helps in secretion. So secretion means release. So let's say for example the human body need to release some sweat. The sweat will come through the pores of your skin. Understand? So the epithelial cell help in terms of the secretion or the letting out of those sweat. Selective absorption and protection. So selective absorption mean that during the digestive process, of course, protein will be broken down so that the human body cells can use it. So in terms of those protein, after they are being digested by the digestive system, then it is now time for the different body parts to absorb the nutrients, so that they can use it for their individual process. Next specialized cell is sperm cell. So again, so far we would have looked at the specialized cell in terms of the main topic there. So now we're looking at the different types of specialized cell. So we would have looked at nerve cell, and we would have just looked at epithelial cell. So the third type of specialized cell in human now is the sperm cell. And the sperm cell, you will not find sperm cell in a female. You will only find sperm cell within a male. So the main function of the sperm cell is to fertilize egg, and that egg of course will be released or come from the female body. Understand? So in terms of function, again, for the sperm cell, as you can see for the first pointer there, they are specialized to fertilize eggs. So that's their function. Now moving down to the second pointer, the tail allows the sperm cell to swim towards the female sex cell. So if you look at the diagram, you will see that the diagram of course have an example of the cell, of the sperm cell. As you can see, it actually comes with this section that is known as the tail. So the tail is what allow it to actually move along the female reproductive system, that is after ejaculation, so that it can actually move towards the egg that is in the female body to fertilize it. Right, so let's move down to another specialized cell. This one now, it is called the egg cell. So have a large nucleus containing genetic information from the female, and this type of cell so store food in the cytoplasm. So the egg cell stores some amount of food in there. Moving on, so we're continuing looking at the different types of cell. So now we're at the red blood cell. So right away, the first point I would have mentioned it at the start of the class. So transport oxygen from lungs to the body cells for cellular respiration. So the main function for your red blood cell is to transport oxygen around the human body. And oxygen is very important as it relates to living organisms, especially animals and human beings. Meaning that in order for your body cells to release energy, oxygen will be needed. So the oxygen basically help in terms of extracting, getting the energy out of the nutrients that you would have consumed, and that normally take place during a process that is called cellular respiration. And cellular respiration, again, it is mentioning the fact that this is the process by which living organism release the energy that they need to move from point A to point B, or the energy that they need to carry out a particular body function. Now moving down to the second pointer. So hemoglobin of the cytoplasm carries the oxygen. Now if I ask you the question, which part of the body pick up and transport oxygen, then you would give me the red blood cell, no problem. But if I should continue or extend the question and ask you which part of the red blood cell pick up and transport oxygen, then that is when you will tell me that it is the hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin is a part of your red blood cell. So it is just like a motor vehicle. A motor vehicle have different parts, have different component, but the wheels, the four wheels on that motor vehicle is what allow it to move because they rotate. So it is the same thing with your red blood cell. The hemoglobin is a part of your red blood cell, and the fact that the red blood cell have different component, have different parts, and those different parts are responsible for something else in terms of function. But as for the hemoglobin, the main function for the hemoglobin is to pick up and transport oxygen around the human body. Alright, so moving on to our next type of specialized cell. So again, students, so far if I should ask you to list or give me the different types of specialized cells in the human body, nerve cells would be one, epithelial cell, we have sperm cell, we have egg cells, we have red blood cell, and of course we have white blood cell now. Now the white blood cell, it is also called leukocytes. So instead of saying white blood cells, some textbook will actually call it leukocytes. Now in terms of components, what make up the white blood cell, normally they are saying that white blood cell does not have any nucleus. Now the nucleus of a cell is what is responsible for controlling the activities that take part in that cell, regulating the different things that take part in the cell. That is the function of the nucleus. But they are saying that you will not find one in white blood cell. Third pointer, white blood cells destroy bacteria. So your white blood cells, they actually work very close to your what is known as your immune system, because your immune system is that system that protects the human body, right? So white blood cell, its main function is to destroy microorganisms that cause some form of disease or sickness, where bacteria is one. Now there are two types of white blood cells. We have one that is known as the phagocytes, and we have one that is known as the lymphocytes. So those are the two different types of white blood cell. And on the screen here, I see the two different types of white blood cell. Now in terms of labeling, you should be able to label the two different types of white blood cell. You should be able to tell me the differences between these two types of blood cells. So you have quite a bit to learn about the white blood cell. So again, the two types are phagocytes and lymphocytes. So then the fourth pointer, phagocyte engulf microorganism in a process called phagocytosis. So that's the process, phagocytosis. Moving down to the final pointer on the page there, lymphocytes produce antibodies which kill microorganisms. So when microorganisms such as bacteria or virus go inside the human body, then your white blood cell will come into play, where the lymphocytes will now produce a chemical or a mixture that is known as antibody. Now, this antibody is what will now destroy the microorganism that is inside of your body. Alright, so moving on to next type of cell. This one is called muscle cell. So these cells contract so that movement can take place at a joint. So it is not your red blood cell that going to contract to allow movement at a joint. You understand? The red blood cell only deal with oxygen. So what they are showing you now is that we have what is now called a muscle cell. And the main function for your muscle cell is, of course, for them to contract so that movement can occur or take place at that joint that need to be moved. So that should complete it in terms of the types of specialized cells in human being. Just gonna go back to this. Now in the WhatsApp group I will post the notes. Right, I'm gonna post the notes in the WhatsApp group. I'm gonna do that just now. Right, so the list of specialized cells, let me just post the right, so the list of specialized cells that you can find in human being: a nerve cell, then you have the epithelial cell, sperm cell, egg cells, red blood cell, and of course white blood cell. So that's basically it in terms of the different type of cell that are found in the human body. So moving on to specialized cells in plants now. So root ear cell absorb minerals and water in the soil. Right, so just like the human body, a plant, for example, have different types of cell that carry out different types of functions. So they are saying that the root ear cell absorb minerals and water from the water, and from there is some mistake there, but basically what it is saying is that the root ear is what absorb the mineral that you will find in the water in the soil. Second pointer, the cell's structure, the cell's surface area is increased by the long root ear. Alright, moving on in terms of type of cell in plant, we have the xylem vessel and transport water through the plant. So this is the part of your plant that this cell is specialized for transporting water. That's its main function. And this cell has no cytoplasm, so there is no cytoplasm for this cell. Alright, so after looking at different types of specialized cell, then the next thing we're now going to look at, different components or the different parts that make up the different cell within the human body. Right, so I'm going to give you a 5 minutes break before I move into the structure of for the different types of specialized cell. So student are giving you a 5-minute break.